I'm just going to drop in to allowing people to feel into right now. How would it feel like to wake up in a world where everything that you kind of hope is maybe possible is happening, right? You wake up and you look out the window and you just feel good about being here. You feel that like sunshiny openness that you feel like the morning after something really good happens, or you fall in love, and you walk down the street and you see people and you're just stoked to see them, like you're stoked to see your best friend, or you don't feel anyone grabbing energetically at you and you're not either. You're just gliding, but you also feel connected. You hear people telling stories about what's going on in the world. And it's like, damn, can you believe that we cleaned up the oceans? Can you believe that like we used to talk so much about identity, but we actually dealt with it, right? And so I can just see you now, and I don't even have to think about all that stuff that went down, although we know it's possible and we know that it did happen. And just letting yourself breathe into that sensation of not only have I quote unquote manifested the money, the partner, the house, the life that I want, but we all co-created something that we're so proud of. And we just feel so good about like, this is who we really are. Because that's why it's felt so awful, because it's not who we are to feel so separate, right? And you can look at it and it's not just that you did it on your own, but like, wow, we did this together, right? It just feels easier to be here now. And I can't wait to see what people are creating.
You're listening to the Almost 30 podcast, hosted by Krista Williams and Lindsay Simsick. Almost 30 started as a conversation about the transition from our 20s to our 30s. But then we realized life is full of transitions. So we expanded our mission.
We are an intuition-led, wellness-focused lifestyle podcast that promises to deliver authentic conversations, diverse points of view, and insights rooted in optimism, growth, and intention. The Almost 30 Nation community is a group of purposeful dreamers who are smart, passionate, and always seeking the full potential in every aspect of their lives.
At Almost 30, we're making magic together. We dream it,
and then we do it.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Almost 30 podcast.
Here we go.
Almost 30 podcast family, welcome back.
Welcome to the world.
Welcome to the world. And if you're new here, we're almost 30 and we talk about transitions in life, health, wellness, spirituality, entrepreneurship, all of the things.
Yeah, we wanted to create a space where you felt like you could be yourself. So the conversations we have are very real and honest and hopefully inspiring, sometimes funny. I think more times funny.
You know what? I was listening to Joe Rogan with Snowden. Mm-hmm. And one of the parts where Snowden was talking about how Joe Rogan's logo is not necessarily on brand to the depth of content. And I felt that on a spiritual level.
Absolutely.
I literally
thought that since the day I saw it.
And I was like, damn, my whole life makes sense now. Like it's with Edward Snowden. It was episode 1368 with Joe Rogan. And I was like, oh, I feel that on a spiritual level because it is true. You do look at his logo and branding and you're like, huh. But Joe was like, I own that. Like I want to confuse people. But he's the biggest podcaster in the game, making millions and millions of dollars a year. So you can say that and be like, whatever, fuck him.
Fuck off, everyone.
Fuck him. I'm going to have a third eye on my bald head picture.
Yeah, because you don't initially see the third eye. So you just kind of see this like,
yes.
And it like is kind of jarring.
Yeah.
Wait, Edward Snowden said that?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Edward's like, he said that a bunch of Joe's fans have been asking him to come on. And then he said, you know, when I first saw your logo a long time ago, I thought, this is interesting. And then when I listened to your content, it doesn't match the depth of your content. But Joe was like, I own that. Like, he's like, I want to confuse people. The interview, you guys, if you haven't listened with Edward Snowden, is very good.
Is it like 4 hours?
It's fucking just facts. I think it's 3.5.
Yeah.
Just like facts.
Wow.
Like it's just facts. And the way that I love Edward speaks to the situation as it relates to like the increase of censorship and government involvement in areas outside of jurisdiction, making it illegal and making it unconstitutional after 9/11. It just is it's very much in the vein of no one is necessarily wrong. This just got out of hand. And we really need to be aware of what's going on. The government shouldn't have access to every single bit of data and information on people when it's not necessary. It's unconstitutional. So we as Americans need to stand up for our rights, to be protected, to have freedom of speech, to have all these things, and just kind of like take the power back from the government. And it was kind of interesting. He was talking about the shift in power after 9/11, how it kind of shifted to back from the people together having power to the government having power over us. And a lot of that happened during the transition to with technology. With that technology, you can have more power over people because they don't know a lot of what's going on, but it's a badass interview.
It's an interesting to think about 9/11 as a point, like after which we felt so, and maybe just what I felt was like we felt vulnerable as a country and scared. And so it's almost like the government like went into this role of like, let me protect you. And that's why it's like more power that way.
Yeah. They wanted to protect against terrorism.
Right. But it's like a guise over which like maybe a lot of other like crazy control was happening. But it's like, no, we're like protecting you. This is a very vulnerable time. Da, 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 da.
Exactly. And then when they didn't find any terrorists that way, it just continued and it escalated and it became, surveillance in very harmful ways. So it's just fascinating. I mean, and there's a lot happening right now in the government with Facebook too. So, just thinking about the privacy and sovereignty of people and our data and government and these big tech corporations is just an interesting conversation to watch. It's a good one.
Who's regulating?
And Snowden is like a good ass speaker. He's
really? I can't wait to listen.
He's so crisp. It is like you understand every single thing he's saying, you're understanding. It's really, and it's very eloquent. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It is crazy. Dude, Joe is just doing the Lord's work. Literally, he's doing the Lord's work.
I wonder what the security's like there.
I was actually wondering that. I'm like, what kind of, because I think Edward Snowden has a book out. So I think his publisher reached out to Joe and asked to be on, because Edward actually is interviewed on a good amount of podcasts, but he's having a lot of issues getting the book printed. But because the government's trying to sue him for a lot of different reasons to prohibit or cause so much financial damage that it doesn't go to press or that it has a hard time, but they can't necessarily ban it from being pressed because that's our First Amendment, freedom of speech. So it's just very interesting, what he was like talking about. Wow. And then Joe's interview with Bernie Sanders was like so good, like Lord's work.
And then Joe just goes home at night and he
honestly
eats some meat, plays with his dog.
Honestly. And he plans his next hunting extravaganza. And he's like, hey, Jamie, pull up that video of that guy that walks across the street and he looks at the deer. And then the deer, it's like these crazy videos. Like Joe goes from like being an amazing investigative reporter to like a total dad. Like total dad moments where he takes like his guests on these weird like journeys. And it's like, they're like, what are we doing? Like, why are we watching this video of this guy in this tree, watching this buck hunting them with an arrow for 4 hours? Like, it's just so freaking wild.
Nothing is more dad than Joe Rogan's Instagram.
Oh my God.
With his dog when he does the selfies. Nothing is more dad.
That is the damn truth.
It's literally like just...
That is the damn truth. He's like, haha, I'm a zillionaire.
Holy God, holy pants.
I was just telling Lindsay, I've been drinking coffee the past week. I'm crusty. I'm dry as a raisin. I'm like a crusty girl. My skin is flaking off and my voice sounds bad. I'm like, I can't be doing this.
Have you been drinking less water? Same. Like everything's same except just adding coffee.
Maybe less. Maybe less. Just espresso shot. So like a latte. So not coffee, but...
Okay.
But yeah, maybe less water. I don't know. I just feel my skin hurts right now. It's so dry.
Yeah. I also think too, I definitely think it's the coffee that dehydrates me as well. I think the air is like kind of dry right now in LA. There's been fires. Yeah. There was a brush fire in the Palisades. I don't know. I felt it this morning when I was outside. I was like, oh, something like,
gross. You're like, I'm like, wow. I'm trying to do my damn podcast that I do all the time. And my voice sounds like shit.
I don't know if anyone's hearing.
I don't know if you guys would hear it, but I'm not as.
It's more of a feeling too.
I'm not as buttery as I am usually.
It's more of a feeling too. Like, you know,
yes.
the feeling.
I just feel annoying.
Speaking of that sound that you just made, I just had like I don't even know. I was doing the stairs in Santa Monica, and there was this guy who like was covered in zinc oxide and had like all the things. And it was like he was
a robot,
like an astronaut, like walking like
he's like,
it was amazing.
That's like when someone's on life support. Not funny. Next.
Not funny.
Not funny. Anyways, so this week, so I was on the phone the other day when the team was over here for like an hour with the police. So I got a letter.
We have weekly calls with the police.
Yeah, weekly calls with the police. They're just trying to keep up to date. And I think I got a letter maybe a month ago, and it was like, people versus this person. You have been identified as a victim of a loss of property case, here's where you need to send your receipts, proof of information, etc. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is for the person that got arrested for stealing all those packages from me for months and months.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, got it. Cool. Because I knew they arrested that person. So I'm like, all right, I have to get all this information over to them by this date because that person appears in court. So I need to get all the receipts for all the things that were lost or that were stolen during this time. So I'm like, all right, I have until this day to do that. So I'm on the phone with them yesterday and I'm like, all right, so I got to get all these receipts together, They're like, yeah, please get it to us by end of day because tomorrow they appear in court. And so I spent maybe 30 to 45 minutes getting tons of receipts together. And this was actually in March and the beginning of April when it was probably happening for 2 months where I would just have tons of packages stolen. And most of the time it was like half was stolen or whatever they want would be stolen. And then it'd be put back. Some stuff would be put back. I don't know. And it was actually before Coachella. So I'm putting together these receipts and it's like gold body chain, thong, one set. It's like mesh top, alien sheer dress. Like these, like, it's like round circle frame glasses, star booties, like all this like glitter tankini, like all these like wild things. And I send over probably $2,000 is probably stolen, maybe more. Cause I actually had a bunch of, PR packages stolen. So I sent over all these emails to this lady, Mina, who works at the government, of this ridiculous clothes, like this trash clothes from like Nasty Gal and like the last time I ever did fast fashion shopping probably. And I sent over it her way and like she just replied and she's like, this isn't the right case, ma'am. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, so I called her. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, this is for all the stuff that was stolen from my apartment. And she's like looking through, she's like, no, it's not. She's like, this is for the hit and run.
Oh my God.
So I literally took 45 minutes of my time to go to forever21.com, all these trash sites for all this trash clothes that I got. And then these like facial oils that I got sent to me and just this ridiculous stuff. And she's like, no, this is for when the woman hit and ran your car earlier.
Son of a bitch.
I know. I was like, oh, fuck.
So like, what was the receipt you needed to send? Just
so like I needed to find all the paperwork for when this woman did a hit and run on my car earlier this year. But it was weird because they put the name of the woman on the thing. So it's people versus lady's name, which is, I guess it's public record. And so I actually Googled her and looked up who she was. And I saw, it's actually, this is the thing about the internet that's crazy. Back to Snowden is that I found her address was linked and listed. And it showed where she worked because it was on LinkedIn. So it was a picture of her. And I actually got a glimpse of her when she hit me and then drove off. So I knew who it was. So now I know what her face is, who she is, and where she lives. She lives very close to me. How fucking weird. Freaky. I'm like, dude, this is the whole thing. I don't know who I was talking to the other day about this. Oh, that podcast. And we were talking about how they can play people's 911 calls because it's public record.
Yeah.
Hi, I don't think that people should be able to play people's most horrifying and horrific moments that happen when they call public 911 again. I really don't need to be hearing that. Yeah. And just like this, like, peace and blessings. Thanks for doing your part to help rectify this case and get me my money back for the hit and run. But I don't really need to know her name. And I shouldn't be able to find where she lives and where she works.
Yeah, because what if you were a crazy person?
What if I was a crazy person? I really don't even, in this case, it's like, I don't care. I want justice to be done, but I'm not going to overexert myself to do anything because she's already in court. It's bad enough already. So I'm just like, what? That is not right that you can find out that information, because someone could just go to her house and be like, hi. Or her job.
Or just like bash in her car.
Exactly.
Or something
exactly.
like
something crazy.
Wow.
I know. But
tell her to
now Mina has all my receipts for all my trash clothes. She's like,
cute.
Literally, I sent her like 7. She's like, what are these? Like, I'm looking for an insurance copy.
That is amazing. Actually, we should post those.
I actually should. Also, so join the group and you guys can see all the trash
that I got Coachella and Spo.
I'm interested if this woman, was able to live her best life in
all those
in my gear.
And you don't know.
She was
she was arrested.
She was arrested. So she wasn't arrested, but she was set to appear in court. So she actually had two other cases against her. And the woman told me this at the police station for DUI and then another hit and run. So I think what had happened is that this woman had got a DUI and she got really scared with the DUI and the hit and run. And then when she hit me again, she was scared and ran.
Damn. But the one who stole your clothes got arrested.
Yeah. Sorry. The one who stole my clothes did get arrested. Yes. But I haven't heard anything about what they're going to do about that situation.
Yeah. This is quite a theme for you.
I know. It's actually happened a lot in my life where I have this kind of riffraff around me, like with the stalker. And I kind of have riffraff in my field a lot. So.
Well, now you know how to like talk to the police.
Yeah.
Like that would intimidate me, like to have conversations. So now you have that.
Well, the thing, the thing about it, whatever. Peace and love.
Riff-raff, taking a bath. Okay.
Riff-raff, taking a bath.
Cool.
Cruising with my Cabbage Patch Kids.
I was on the phone earlier with my best friend, Maddie. He is in New York and he recently hurt his thumb really, really bad. And he was holding a vase and it broke in his hand. And you kind of don't think about, like, I don't normally think of the worst case scenario. He does. And in this case, it served him.
Wow.
So I'm like, I just want to like spotlight this because I'm not one to be my own advocate in a doctor's office. Actually, maybe I am now. I just haven't been in a doctor's office in a while. But to really think like, the way they said that or did that was a little this way or that way. Should I get a second opinion? Or so he initially like had this cut in his thumb, is really bad, went and had it like sewn up. And then like it wasn't feeling right. He couldn't really feel his thumb. And he's like, something's wrong. Like I probably would have let it chill. I probably would have been like, well, this is just how it is or how it heals.
It would be like green. I'd be like,
Yeah. Yeah. So he like went back, got, to the doctor and they're like, oh my God, we need to do emergency surgery. Like if we don't do it ASAP, like the nerves won't be able to repair, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, he had surgery the other day and he's all right. It hasn't been like the easiest, but I just thought it was so interesting, like all the questions he asked, like, and I'm sure like he was, giving the doctor a time, but like you should, they're there to answer the questions. They're there to be the expert. They're there to calm your nerves and like make you feel really good. So anyone out there going into doctor's offices or having treatments, whatever, just like be your own advocate.
Yeah. I don't know if they're there to calm your nerves or like for you particularly.
Meaning with information.
Yeah. But you should, the permission for you to ask as many questions as you need until you feel good it should be there.
Because I can imagine there are some personalities out there in the medical field that would be like, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Like, don't ask those,
just like any field.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that just reminded me. My mom,
that's really beautiful.
I mean, yeah, he's like still recovering, and it is what it is. And I told him, I was like, take some deep breaths today. I was like, your body, I like went into my meditation voice. I was like, your body is healing. Your body feels your energy. Your body.
It's like, Lindsay, I'm driving.
He's like, I know, but I'm like, that is energy. I saw that with my mom too, when she was sick, like at getting second opinions, asking questions. Cause like, I hadn't thought about that in a while because I'm really lucky. I've been healthy as of late. So you don't really think about those situations where you could feel so vulnerable medically. So.
I know. And I don't have like a medical team.
Me either.
I don't know anyone.
Me either.
So I would be like, okay, I guess I trust you. Getting second opinions is important. And just listening and learning from your body and being present enough to feel good about asking those questions is very important.
I'm thinking about finding a naturopathic doctor.
Oh yeah. I got a good one from V's Honey, actually.
And Tiff has one too, actually.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, that's us.
Anywho, that's us. Medical doctors checking in.
We are not
man,
doctors.
This episode.
So
See, this episode actually fueled me in a huge way. And this has been one of my favorite new relationships of 2020. Oops, 2019.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome. For real, you guys, this one is so good. Share it with all your friends. Yeah.
Aaron,
I am so excited.
Aaron Rose is incredible. He's actually our coach. We hired Aaron during this time when we really felt like we wanted to go deeper, further, expand our knowledge around just being conscious leaders, and it's really important for us to be doing the work as we serve you. So he's from another planet.
Yeah, truly. We're going to have him back on to talk a lot about aliens, aliens and all the spiritual stuff. But as a transformational coach for new paradigm leaders, influencers, and change makers, this conversation really talked a lot about what that means on a very grounded level. We talked about Aaron's journey, actually, from growing up in a very strict household that was very religious, where he could find his way to be true to who he was. And yeah,
it was just a really beautiful, he channels when he speaks. He's not channeling, light beings or anything else per se, but the way in which the information comes through, I mean, maybe his, it was just, I was high.
Yeah, same.
To him. It was really, really, really fun. So we hope you feel that when you listen. And again, share with people you love. It means a lot to us. And if you're called to write a review on Apple Podcasts, please do.
Please do. It means the world. Almost30podcast.com/tour to find our tour dates for the rest of the year. Almost 30 podcast on Instagram. And we love you very much.
Very much. Enjoy.
Superfoods. Do not miss out. Superfoods are an incredible way to optimize your health, and Organic Traditions offers the highest quality superfoods sourced from all over the world. They carry 4 instant vegan superfood lattes, which we really love. They have probiotics in them, and they're made with coconut milk powder, and you can just make them instantly with some hot or cold water. They come in turmeric, matcha, chocolate, and beet. The beet is so good. You wouldn't think, but it's delicious. They also have a chocolate latte with ashwagandha, which I love, which is a really great adaptogenic herb that has helped with my stress response. I really, really love the ashwagandha. They also have an insane selection of things like sprouted seeds. So they have a sprouted flaxseed powder, which I keep in my fridge ready for smoothies. And they also carry different smoothie mixes, sweeteners. They carry nuts and seeds. I just really, really love Organic Traditions because they are obsessed with where they are sourcing their herbs and seeds, nuts, everything in their products. Their mission is to inspire you to fuel yourself with the help of their superfoods, and their vision is to aid us on our journey to optimal wellness, vitality, and longevity, to live the healthiest, most vibrant life possible. I am in. Are you? And I also love the education aspect of Organic Traditions. Not only do they want to fuel you and make you feel better, but they also want to give you the knowledge that for me really grounds me in the why of why I am eating and consuming consuming these particular superfoods. So you can go to their website, Organic Traditions, to learn more. And we're really excited. You can use the code almost30 at checkout for 30% off your order. So stock up, y'all. It's about to be winter, so we want those lattes, nuts, seeds, almost like little squirrels. We must gather and prepare for winter. What? Organictraditions.com. Use the code almost30 for 30% off. When Krista and I turned 30, we made it our priority to make our bed our happy place. We spend a lot of time sleeping, so might as well make it just incredible. And Buffy has helped us make our dreams come true. Buffy makes super soft, earth-friendly bedding. I mean, what is better than having a good night's sleep and saving the environment? Come on, people. This is 30. Everything is made from ultra smooth eucalyptus fiber that feels softer than cotton. It's super breathable, cool to the touch, which I like because I tend to sleep very hot. So it's actually ideal that your body temperature is a little bit cooler at night. It helps you to sleep. So y'all, I'm sleeping well and I'm feeling cozy as heck. And they offer everything from cult favorite comforters, which I love. I cannot say enough about my Buffy comforter. It is so lightweight, but like just freaking precious to sleep with. And they also have their new sheets, which I am pumped about. I am moving and so excited to bring over my new Buffy bedding. All of their products are cruelty-free and hypoallergenic. This is really important. So there's no down feathers or animal products in here. Has anyone ever been poked by a freaking feather in their comforter? Not here. So if you'd like to try Buffy, we cannot recommend enough. We've loved partnering with them. You can visit buffy.co and enter the code almost30 for $20 off your Buffy bedding. So that's buffy.co. Enter the code almost30 for $20 off your Buffy bedding. And I also have their comforter in my gorgeous duvet. So I'd highly recommend. When you're vibing so high, do you ever feel like bad to vibe so high around people? Like almost like a shame around like feeling good.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm less of a point of attraction for people who would make me doubt it on like that core level of like, I'm harming you by being in my own vibration. But I definitely have to have compassion. Like I saw a friend who I hadn't seen in months in New York. And within about 5 minutes of us hanging out, she was like, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. And because I could just tell that I came in and just hit her like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And to have compassion, not take it personally. And
yeah.
But every once it's more, I used to feel guilty. And now it's more like I watched them going through that story of like, Erin's a lot right now. I had an interaction with someone the other day who was like, you're really intense. And I was like,
wow,
interesting. What did you
interesting.
What makes you say that? As opposed to being like, oh my God, I'm really intense.
Yeah.
It's like, you must be this high to ride. And like, if not, the universe will just not bring us together.
I think people think people are intense when they make eye contact.
Yeah.
If you're like a human who's making eye contact longer than 30 seconds, people are like, that's pretty intense. Yeah. We don't connect with people now.
Totally.
You know, so if someone's like actually connecting with an eye contact, it's like, wow, that's really intense.
Yeah. Or even just like being energetically present, like not trying to leave the situation mentally as much.
Yeah. That's what's been interesting on tour too, and so cool is that I think we feel so good, you know, being with our audience that when we are with them one-on-one, it is the eye contact and we are so present. They almost expect us to like not be that way. So they get freaked out. You can literally like, physically nice see them.
And like they kind of like,
they're like, oh no. And we're like, it's almost like we have to do something without making them feel shame around it to just like tell them it's okay. And we want to be here with them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's not saying that we're like these big stars, but like, do you know what I'm saying? It's just, people don't expect that from someone they've never met, to give them that time and that presence and that connection. And it always feels so good, but I do think there's like a learning curve.
It's like whenever someone's on a stage, people don't expect that. You know, whatever the stage is, if someone's on a stage, like if ever I have a photo shoot in public, people are always like, wow. And it's like literally for nothing. You know, like it's literally the cheapest photo shoot ever. People are like, wow, photos are being taken. But I was also thinking with being sober and not drinking, I don't drink as well. And that was something I really noticed when I stopped drinking, was like my presence around people that were, it freaked people out because it's like, it becomes very intense when you're kind of leaving your body in those moments where you're drinking. And then it seems comparative to someone being fully present. It's like hard to take that. It's kind of scary.
Totally. It feels, it confronts that part of me that I confronted when I stopped drinking, which was that part of me that was always kind of trying to leave a situation, assuming that I wasn't fully accepted in a situation. And also that energy of when has our nervous system had the experience of presence? Sometimes it's like presence, but like the bad, it's like someone very focused on you in a way that hasn't really been honoring of your autonomy. And so I think that there's a way that sometimes people feel that like, whew, you're really present. Like, what's the catch?
Wow.
I've never thought about it that way. Wow. Have you had that? Like kind of like
join my MLM.
But like have you had that focus, like that kind of intense, almost negative focus experience? In that way, what you just described?
I would say that I have definitely had that in situations that were like classical, like consent violation situations, where like in dating situations and also with certain people in my family growing up. And it was sort of like even the energy of being in a very chaotic house, but then it's like, when is someone really focusing on you? If you're in a chaotic environment, they're like, don't do, it's when you're getting negative feedback. And so I think that our nervous systems, especially if you're running that program of like, I don't deserve to be loved and I don't deserve people's time, even if it's like, I don't deserve like a full deep breath with almost 30.
We all deserve.
Yeah. So it just feels foreign.
That's interesting, actually. It makes me think about my upbringing in a chaotic household. And I didn't have full attention in a positive way. So thinking about my life now where I don't like that positive, I like it, but I don't in a lot of ways. It doesn't freak me out. I just am like, I don't know, I'm dismissive of it. You know what I mean? And so that's like I've actually never thought about it in that way, that I'm not as actually comfortable with like someone being fully present with me and being very communicative about positive things or like joy,
Yeah. It's like, cool, I got my minimum effective dose of that and moving on. Or it's just like, I saw almost like that imagery of receptors, like neurotransmitters in the brain. It's like that the channel for that is limited.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yes.
So I would love to kind of
so glad you're here.
Introduce you to our audience. We had the honor of meeting you at a really special diversity and wellness dinner that we attended not too long ago. And we met so many incredible people and especially just connected with you and the work that you're doing in the world. And it really came at it's always divine timing. So we were surprised and we're not surprised at the same time, where we were very much in the work of exploring how we, as our business grows, as our impact grows, how we could continue to do the work of being better allies, of creating a safe, inclusive space, not only for the people that work for us, but for our community and beyond. So, your work is that and so much more, but I would kind of love to go back. Your story is one that I've only heard parts of through that dinner alone. So I've really been looking forward to talking to you more in depth today about your story. So yeah, wherever feels good and natural to start.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so good to be here and to just be inside the energy that I have witnessed you creating, to be in the little almost 30 portal here. In terms of where it all began, I mean, there's obviously so many ways to answer that question on many multidimensional levels, but really I consider myself a person who came into the world really asking the question of like, why can't we get along? And there was this deep feeling of contrast in my life where I had this, and you're looking at me and I've got this like perma smile and like brightness in my energy, and had that energy even as a kid where I was so just like lit up by the world. And I'm seeing like the trees outside the window here and just lit up by nature and like the stars and wow, and so hopeful, but at the same time experiencing a lot of we could call it violence, abuse. We could talk about what the other people did, but we could also just say that I had the experience of feeling really separate. I had the experience of feeling really out of control. I had the experience of feeling really harmed by early experiences in my life, and looking around, being raised in a really Catholic environment and going to church. And I just picture being so small and looking up at the church ceiling and hearing these songs that were being sung, and actually already at 3 years old having the instinct to sing my own songs, to sing things like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and like almost to kind of counter the vibration, and having this sense of, we're talking about love here, but it doesn't feel like it. Right. And that contrast between what people say and what they do, and just feeling so much like love was all I was here for, and like it was the only thing that was truly out of reach in my life. And the quest of finding out how to create that sense of belonging and authenticity within myself was also mirrored out in the world. So it's like my personal journey and my work has always kind of run parallel and intertwining with each other, in the same way that some people are like, I'm going to cure cancer, or I'm going to be a rock star. I was like, this whole world peace thing, like let's see if we can figure this out.
Wow.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an inspiration from the church, I felt like. I grew up Catholic as well. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up partially in New York City. That was the first decade of my life. And then in suburban Massachusetts. So quite a lot of contrast. Like I grew up, in the 90s in New York, that sort of like pre-Giuliani experience.
Wow.
And then was all of a sudden in a much more like earthy, crunchy situation in Massachusetts.
Wow. And did you feel support by your family? If you were in a Catholic church, I guess, what was that experience for you to be someone that's like a nature lover, feeling vibrations, not seeing the church as the love in your eyes? Did you feel supported by your family as like a foundation to express who you were?
The short answer is no. I know on a soul level that I came into my family to kind of tackle all of this stuff, all of this lack of self-expression. And so when I'm able to look back, I'm able to see like, wow, what was the spectrum of self-expression that was allowed of my parents? Not even like full, like, capital letter identity words, but even like just letting an emotion out, wanting to read a certain book, just having volition within a collective context, individual volition within a collective context. And so, there are certain things I could point to in my experience being LGBTQ in a variety of ways that were those sort of more like cinematic moments of feeling rejected from my family. But it was also just an environment where self-expression of any kind was really, really hard to come by. And when I think about the Catholic Church, I see it as a structure that really separates self from self, right? That really is about that kind of like abdication of individual expression and an abdication of almost like embodiment of like the legitimacy of emotions. And so that was definitely the energy that I grew up in, and it was really the crux of a lot of the conflict with my parents. There were a lot of tearful conversations of like, I don't want to go to church because of X, Y, and Z. And I would come with, my latest reasons and, my latest little, I started a family newspaper when I was like 10 years old. I have 3 younger sisters, all born within 5 years.
Wow.
I started a family newspaper basically so that I could like write editorials about how I should be able to like watch certain TV and not go to church.
I'm obsessed with that.
Oh my God. I pray for a little Aaron Rose. That is so fun.
Yeah, we're just like
that is
sending
so
some
fun.
retroactive love to that timeline.
Oh.
When did your whole family get the newspaper?
Oh yeah, I mean that's.
How would you publish it?
I don't know. I feel like I
Printed it out.
Yeah, printed it out.
Printed
I'm
it out.
picturing like a typewriter. I was always trying to figure out. It's like, well, how do I crack the code? If I tell it to them this way, will they get how awful I feel? And we were required to go to church. It was like, you don't get any quote unquote privileges, or if you don't show up to church every single Sunday and also serve the church. Like I had to either be like an altar server or things like that. And so I felt just so trapped because it just felt so logical to me that I should be able to self-determine. And that wasn't the case.
Wow. What did those early experiences of violence and discrimination look like? And how did you process or not process that trauma? Like, what did that look and feel like? because I know you're not alone, and I know a lot of people are going to, feel very connected in you describing this, but I'm just curious, like, what that felt like at a young age.
So it really hit the whole spectrum of different ways that people can be mistreated and violated. And it was, how do I want to say this? Because for me, it's always about sinking into the energy of it, right? Not just saying like, this happened to me and this person did this.
I noticed that your verbiage was like that. I think that was interesting, related to the languaging to, this is my experience, not this person did something to me.
Yeah. And it's true, right? This person hit me. This person hurt me. This person silenced my voice. And just these early experiences of, what we might call being abused in a variety of ways, and then voicing it and then saying, we're not going to talk about that. Like literally hearing things like, that's something we're going to have to learn to forget, right? And that just never making sense to me. And then by the time I was a teenager and starting to express and begin my journey through all of the letters of the LGBTQ acronym, it started to look like, my family just saying to me, we don't recognize you anymore. We don't even know who you are, right? And having these really painful conversations where I was always trying to explain myself. I was like, okay, if I can just map it this way. So I see almost like a sentence, when you had to diagram sentences. I don't know. I was a nerd who liked to do that, but
loved diagramming.
Amazing. I just got a little like dopamine hit thinking about that. But it was like, how do I make myself legible to you? Right. And it was this, and part of it too was like, F you. You need to understand that it's okay for me to be me, that it's okay for me to be LGBTQ, that it's okay for me to want to do these different things with my life. And then also at the same time being, when you're in that conversation, you're accepting the legitimacy of the conversation. You're saying, my worth is up for debate. My self-determination is up for debate, and I'm going to keep trying to prove it. And so there was a part of me that was still like, damn, what do I have to do to be loved, right? Like, how do I change myself? Like, I'm so good. Like, I'm an A+ student and I'm the athlete and I'm doing all these things, but it doesn't seem like it's enough, right? And if we were to roll the tape back, there were moments of deep connection with my family, but it's like, what was that energy underneath it? It was, we haven't fully loved and accepted ourselves. So that was just the whole container I was swimming in. And it's only when I started to be able to see that and say, whoa, there was nothing I could say that would have shifted it, because that level of self-acceptance wasn't present in the people that I was trying to convince to accept me, right? And even when I did come out as LGBTQ, some of the feedback I got was a little bit of like, the energy underneath it was like, why do you get to do that, right? Why do you get to be so nuanced? And again, if my guardians and my parents and my people in my family, if they were to listen to this, right, there might be a feeling of like, no, but we did, like, we really wanted to accept you, but it was just the energy underneath. It's the healing process that we're all going through. And so that was the key out, was starting to say, I can still be really angry, and like really freaking angry and really sad. And I still carry some of that within me, but I understand why it happened. And it's been the medicine of my life and the fuel of my work. So we're going to high five in the afterlife, if not right now.
One of my favorite quotes is from Jonathan Sandford. He wrote Eating Animals, which is the book that made me turn vegan. And he says, you can wake someone who is sleeping, but you cannot wake someone who is laying down with their eyes closed, because they're just faking it. So it's like when someone knows something, but they're refusing to know. You know what I mean? Which in that book relates to like being plant-based. Like people understand, but the actions don't really align with that. But I was thinking about that when you were talking, and I related that to that sentiment. So as you were, I have a lot of notes for questions that I'm going to ask a little bit later, but as you're navigating this journey, what was the first experience in your like LGBTQ journey? Like, was there a moment or something where you're like, oh, I'm different. Like, I feel different. This is a different experience than everyone else is having. What was that like?
Beautiful question. And that quote that you just recited just gave me full body chills, right? Because it's so energetically evocative of that. Like, no, no.
Yes.
I don't want to accept that. And how we end up in that physiologically closed down state too. And that book also played a big role in my plant-based journey.
Such a good one.
It's
savage.
It is.
No, it does not hold back. People are like, "What's the book?" I'm like, "Well, if you want to know."
It's got this pretty green cover and let your experience be your guide. That first experience. So yeah, my journey being LGBTQ, I understand it on a soul level is that I came here to have a very nuanced human experience, right? And I came here to go through a lot of experiences that would then lead me to a very integrated state, right? Where a lot of people could feel like they related to me and I could actually relate to a lot of people, having been someone who was, so the external nitty-gritty is that I was female assigned at birth, and lived my childhood as someone that people saw as a girl, and ultimately stepped into my identity as a man and went through that process of identifying as trans. And at the same time, so that's the gender piece. And a simple way of talking about it is just to say that sexuality is who you go to bed with, gender is who you go to bed as, right? So that sense of I am versus who you're relating to. And so as a child, I was like totally one of those 90s tomboys. Like I like all of those like long hair girls with the backwards hats in those 90s movies like The Sandlot. Like that was my archetype. But I really identified with all of the floppy haired 90s boys like Leonardo DiCaprio and River Phoenix. And I was like
floppy haired 90s boys.
That's amazing.
That hit me
Casual
hard.
identification. You're like, I identify with like Leo.
That hit me hard. Okay.
Yeah, a little blast for the past.
Yes.
I see like the montages of all of the
Devon Sawa.
What's Eating
too.
Gilbert Grape? Yeah,
Oh,
Devon
yeah.
Sawa and Casper. Or who was in Casper?
That was Devon Sawa.
Devon
Yeah.
Sawa. Ooh, man, that was like. And now I watched that movie recently. I'm like, he's 10. Honestly, I was like, yo, he's 10 years old.
That's so funny. And yeah, for me, even Aaron Carter, who was like the younger brother of the Backstreet Boy, Nick Carter, who was like 11 when he had.
He's having an interesting moment too.
Yeah.
Which I can talk about later.
Yeah, that's like a whole nother thread of conversation.
Yeah.
It's like the spiritual awakening of so many different public figures and the healing journeys they're all going on. But I really identified with those boys, and it was socially acceptable because people could just be like, oh, this like girl has a crush on this boy. But there was something in me that was like, it's like that energetic resonance with the embodiment of the masculine container, but a lot of playfulness, a lot of femininity within it. And, you know, my sexuality trajectory was I dated boys, then I fell in love with my best friend who was a girl, and I was like, damn, I guess I have to tell everybody that I'm gay now because like I think we're going to be in love forever. And it was that first love, and you know,
This is it.
the 5-hour phone conversations about Toni Morrison books.
Oh man, those 5-hour phone conversations.
You'd be like sitting there sometimes.
You're like
You'd be
drooling.
I know, honestly.
Like, hello.
It was so like fucked up in a codependent way.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, hold on, I have to brush my teeth. You know what I mean? And you'd like go brush your teeth. Yeah, not even a mute button. Like, and your parents would be like, what are you doing? You're like, nothing.
Oh, again, love, don't worry about it. You'll never understand. So that was like my first coming out process was like, I'm in love with this girl, right, who's my best friend. And having that relationship and then having several serious relationships with women, but then stepping into my 20s and starting to just feel my embodiment shift, feeling like I've never really claimed this she thing or this woman thing, even though I've tried to. And then it was an organic evolution where I started to kind of let go of the binary and started to say, okay, maybe I'm in between. And then just as I matured, as I came into myself, I was like, okay, I guess Aaron Rose is this man for the rest of my life, right? I guess that's the identity that feels most resonant. And a lot of people have that sense of like, I see this and this is who I am and I'm born in the wrong body and I'm messed up and I have to change and all of that fear. And for me, there was a little bit of that, but it was mostly like, it's like when you're hungry after a hike and you're just like, it's very clear that your body needs something, right? And it was clear that I was just meant to start the process. And in terms of even just, hormones, I was like, every shot's a choice. Let's just take this next right action after next right action. And then as I was doing that and continuing my sort of spiritual awakening process, I was just one day I was like, damn, there I am. Right. And those eyes were the same eyes that I had when I was like 6, when I was just being myself as a kid. And so it's been a wild journey. And throughout that, I dated everybody. So it's like I've I've traversed the full spectrum.
Yeah.
Which one's your favorite? I was in the secret Facebook group the other day, and I just love this group. We can ask any question and just feel seen and supported. And someone was asking about lube and how to make their sexual experience more pleasurable. And I rose my hand and I recommended Foria. So I've been using Foria as of late. Foria is an incredible brand. They are pioneering cannabis and hemp products that actually promote pleasure enhancement, pain relief, and overall wellness. And they are committed to honoring the earth as they do it. And I just adore this brand. So, we've talked about it, the therapeutic offerings of plants, powerful testimonials from our community. And I've even read testimonials on the Foria website that just express, this passion for plants and how they've been able to integrate them into their everyday life for better health and wellness. And I want to give you two of the products that I'm loving. Awaken is a groundbreaking product that has been changing people's lives all over the world for the last 2 years. I got my hands on it about 6 months ago. This arousal oil works with your body's own natural capacity for arousal and pleasure. And for those who do experience pain during sex, this is a common thing. We need to talk about it. This product has been tremendously helpful for discomfort, pain, and tension during penetration, which is just incredible. And then also really innovative product, their intimacy suppositories for deeper penetrative pleasure. Come on, y'all. Do you like these words I'm using? But Foria is committed to pure and organic sourcing, which, really means a lot to us. We only recommend products that we use ourselves, and they are just always thinking about their impact on the environment well. So from their packaging to the products, they care and are super thoughtful. So if you'd like to try Foria, you can go to Foria Wellness, Foria wellness.com, and you can use our code almost30 for 20% off your first order. So that's ForiaWellness.com. Use the code almost30 for 20% off your first purchase. What a time we live in where being super busy does not mean we need to succumb to overly processed food just because that's all we have time for. No. Daily Harvest came into my life and everything changed. I have enough time to make Daily Harvest meals, whether it's the harvest bowls or the smoothies or the lattes, 5 minutes, and I don't have to compromise the quality of the food. They flash freeze fruits and vegetables at the peak of freshness, and these thoughtfully sourced chef-crafted foods are incredible. Easy to prepare. Each recipe takes one step to prepare with room to make, your own kind of like modifications, add proteins, whatever. But y'all, this is too easy. Endless options. My favorite is the cauliflower pesto harvest bowl. Forever and ever, amen. And I just can't recommend enough. So if you'd like to try Daily Harvest, you can go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code almost30 to get $25 off your first box. That's promo code almost30 at dailyharvest.com to get $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com. How did your family react, like in that container, and you're freely exploring and seeing yourself again? What was the reaction? How did you not let that, if it was a negative one in any way, how did you not let that kind of like dim your shine? Because I'm sure you felt like finally, feeling a shine that you haven't felt in a while.
Yeah, it was an experience of great rupture with my family. We had a couple of different moments of like me expressing something, me getting back an expression of judgment and non-acceptance, and then just in some ways, it's like I had the phrase like my fragile little heart, but I don't even know if that's true. But it was so, that rejection really was almost this reflection of the lack of connection that I had always felt on some level. And so it was just like, boom, I'm out. Like I can't be around you, and I can't come home. Like I can't continue to show up even more me and feel even less accepted. But that was a process of lots of like, crying and yelling on the phone to my parents and saying, this is who I am, and them, having their own experience of feeling like I wasn't the person that they expected me to be, right? And obviously their own stuff around how much they let themselves self-express coming up in that process. And so there were stretches and stretches of time where I didn't see my family, or I didn't go home, or we didn't talk. And that felt like it was going to be permanent, right? That it was going to be something that was going to happen forever, because I didn't understand how to come back to the container and have a different experience. But that's something that has been evolving. And for a long time, it was like it's interesting to me that we're talking so much about the LGBTQ stuff here, because it's something that doesn't come up, that it's not a dominant aspect of my work anymore, because it's actually integrated. For a long time, I was, my diversity and inclusion work was a lot around gender and sexuality, because I was just fighting to be legit in the world. And I had all this toxic shame within me. It was just curdling inside of me. And I just felt, I would have said, I love myself. It's those people. They don't love me, right? I love myself. I have no issue, right? It's them. But ultimately, I was at war within myself. And that was just what was reflected externally. And so that's been the journey.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of the questions that I wanted to talk about was the identity, piece of it, because I would imagine it be boring after a while to have so many aspects of who you are and have the one thing be the identification that people put on you. Do you find that to be, I can't think of a word besides boring, where it's like, I've already done this. I've evolved beyond this. Like, because I think about that with people that are trans in the community. I'm like, gosh, that must be frustrating when you are so many different things, and to have that label, but you also are standing in that label because you want to be a voice for it, for people that are going through it, for people that need support. But I was curious your thoughts on that.
Totally. It can get boring. It did get boring, but then I integrated it within myself, and I was like, okay, I don't want to just be known as this. I have so much more, and I already was offering so much more, right? But because I still was sort of feeling this obligation to talk about it and to make myself legible, it was just what people saw primarily from me. And also just being, literally physically in a place where now, people just read me as like some average white bro, or like sixth member of One Direction, or wherever they put me aesthetically on their spectrum. I pass as a man, right? And that's, I can just be.
Definitely do.
People don't.
Man with the perfect nose. That nose is.
God bless my family, right?
Top notch.
Shout out to them.
I'm a nose spy. Wow. I love a good nose.
I see other perfect noses around there.
Oh yeah, right.
But yeah, it felt boring, but then I just decided to have a different experience and to just take it out of my bio and to just be like, as with everything, right? There's so many other aspects of myself that we could talk about here, that I could talk about with anybody. And it's like, if it's meant to be known, a question will be asked, and we'll begin to explore it. And knowing also that it honestly feels like a tool in my toolbox at this point, that I've had this very tumultuous identity experience and have come out on the other side able to support other people in reckoning with this complicated, we're all so different, and yet somehow we're all one situation on Earth.
Just really quickly on the piece of the container with your family. So you being able to come back to your family, was it an expectation of a different, like how exactly were you able to come back to them, not have any expectations of their change or growth, but really just shift things in you so that it could work? Because I am all ears.
Yeah, I'll first just say it's an ongoing experience. It's how I answer it now will be different than how I answer it in a year. And there isn't this like perfect fairy tale ending yet, except for the fairy tale that I finally just feel amazing all the time. And I feel a level of self-acceptance that it's like, it doesn't even bother me if someone understands who I am anymore. It's like there just isn't that fight to be known and seen. And so from one perspective, I've made it. From another, I'm still navigating what it looks like to be close to these people who I have, some deep karmic work that we're doing together. But the shift really came, I'd say, I work a lot around intention, right? Like, what was my actual intention? All those years that I was fighting and then being like, F them, I need space, I don't want to talk to them, they're the worst. If I were really to look at like, where was my imagination playing out as the best case scenario, or like, when this resolves, what does that look like? There was part of me that was just like, well, I guess what feels good is that they don't exist anymore and I just have a nice life, right? Or like, this problem disappears, or like it wasn't even I wasn't even really letting myself feel like, what would it feel like if they accepted me? What would it feel like if I felt at peace? And
Can't imagine.
That intention of saying, it's my intention to have a peaceful relationship with them. It's my intention also to honor them as full human beings and to see their higher selves and to not tell a story about what can and can't happen. And then to begin to reestablish a connection based on that sort of 0 point field experience. Like, I always see Neo and Morpheus in the Matrix when they go into the Matrix and it's just white and they're just dressed as like their higher selves. And it's like, okay, that's how I want to meet them, right? And it's also like, that's how I meet myself. I can't control their consciousness expansion or how they relate to me. And part of it too is like being at peace. Like, if they think I'm a terrible person, okay, but knowing also that conflict, anytime we're in conflict, we're still bidding for connection on some level, right? I've been in rooms that are very peaceful because people aren't actually invested in connection, right? And I've been in rooms where people are at each other's throats, talking about culture, identity, things like that. And people might look at that and say, oh, that's so negative, right? But it's like, no, if we're in it, if there's crunchiness, if there's conflict, we're still in it. So to me, that speaks to the fact that there is that love underneath it all. Whereas I've had people who just disappear from my life, right? But the fact that we're even fighting about what it means to be connected means that there's still some, resources there.
Wow. It made me think of like, because we all kind of have our own things with going back into the family container and also leaving room for surprise. Like, remembering that like they could surprise me with how they react to something. They could surprise me with how they choose to evolve. Because I always think, oh, they're just going to be the same forever and ever. But even just in the little ways in which they make their decisions every day, those small choices, I'm like, oh, that's so surprising. I never would have thought they would have done that. And to be like, actually let it land. It doesn't have to be like this big thing. It's just like, oh, okay. And it is speaking to that like 0 point of just, creating the space to actually let those little moments land because they matter too, and at this point, they matter probably the most if we're going to like be in this lifetime for the rest of their time on earth, it's like those little moments do add up to something pretty significant. But it's just so interesting to think of you as a child and really committed to and struggling to like communicate and like figure out how to get people to understand where you're coming from and what you're feeling and believing. And what was the turning point at which, because this is like what you do for a living now, is like helping people to talk about difference and to be a part of the conversation, to actually, not walk on eggshells anymore. So like, what was the turning point at which you were confidently able to do that? And was it years of just like kind of practicing and doing those things, or did you have an experience that gave you the confidence to do that?
I think there was always something. This is how our consciousness works these days. I just saw the fire emoji.
I love your visuals. Do you get visions a lot?
Yes.
Yeah, your visuals are very amazing.
Thank you. I'm excited to work more with visuals, to do animations of things that I say. And because it also just takes us out of that, that technical, it just allows us to immerse ourselves in a scene. But that fire emoji, like burning in my belly, like there was something within me, even if I was like smacking my head against a brick wall, I was like, there's stuff going on. Like, don't you understand? Like the genocide in Darfur and malaria, and like these people don't have enough food, and like that person's not being nice, and like that, it distressed me, right? And I, from as early as 13, 14, 15, was starting to think about, okay, like how do I how do I make a difference? Some of the first work that I did was in high school with the girl that I ultimately fell in love with. Shout out to her. She's listening. We're friends now. We did this student organization called Think Globally, Act Locally, where we would like skip our lunch periods and study hall, and we would go around and we somehow convinced all these teachers in our high school to let us give presentations about big global issues. And then it's like intuitively, even then I was like, I can't just hit these kids with an image of genocide. I gotta then give them a little, what can you do right here, right now, right, in your individual life? And so then giving them these ways to take a little bit of action. And that really led me into my late teens and early 20s being a community organizer, working on social justice projects, running traditional campaigns. Like in that way, I feel like that all of us understanding Barack Obama's trajectory sort of gave that visual to community organizing, like knocking on the doors and making change. And that was the model. It was like, when I looked to wanting to make a difference, it was community organizing. It was things like Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. Like those were the people, and Abraham Joshua Heschel. Those were the people that I had to look up to. And so I was on the ground. I was working on food justice, labor justice, organizing for workers' rights, or writing into workers' rights contracts, things like, also, you guys have to order 20% organic food by 2020, things like that. And it was so organic. And then the real shift that came was a couple of years ago, I started to look around and say, is this working? Is this actually working? Right? Because part of the model was these people need to be educated. There's the good ones and there's the bad ones. These people need to change their behavior. As soon as we can help them change their behavior, everything's going to be okay. And there was a fight. It was like, F those workers' bosses, right? And then we're going to the table with them and being like, please treat the workers nicely. It's like,
with like unions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or even like going in and, I was one of those early environmental activists. Like I would chain myself to things and it was like this fight, right? It was fighting for social justice. And then in the lead up to the 2016 election, it just all fell apart for me. I was just like, this energetically isn't working, right? And I always, even before then, there was this, I learned from Gandhi, right? How we do the work is the work. The means have to reflect the ends. So even when I was even younger, I was like, it doesn't make sense to me that none of us are sleeping, because I think we're trying to create a utopia where like we're well rested as activists and doing that kind of self-care for activists work. So that's really been the trajectory of starting to create that space where it's like, how do I do the work in a way that, to go back to what you said about letting the little things delight you, like, are we even open to the possibility of a resolution, or are we addicted to the fight? And that image that you brought in of the person who's refusing to open their eyes and be woken up, it's like, how are we doing that to like life's beauty? We're just like, no, I don't want that hug from that beautiful energy, right? I'm like that way in which we've sort of closed down. And that's really what opened it all up, was just being so committed to change and saying, I'm still just seeing a lot of conflict. So what's going to change that?
Wow. Take a sec.
Grounding breath.
I really love that. I really, really love that. I've never thought about it in that way. And related to that, I saw an Instagram post that you did that I really, really loved and really resonated with me and taught me something that I need to think about, was related to being real on Instagram. And would love for you to fill it in. But what I gathered from it was that you talked a lot about how being real seems to be related to negativity in a way. So you're considered real on Instagram if you are writing about your anxiety, your depression, how work is hard, how your relationship's hard, more or less the hard, challenging parts of your life. But the realness doesn't really happen on Instagram when people are really standing in their power and really sharing moments of like true alignment and power within who they are. And I thought that was very true, because I noticed that within myself, where I will share more of like the challenging parts, because I feel like I do need to relate on that level rather than like something that really feels truly deeply aligned and powerful for me. As an example, my relationship, I don't share much about, because I feel like it will make others feel bad if I talk too much about things that are really good for me.
So powerful. And I feel that from you about your relationship. Like it's like almost this like untapped well energy where it's like, damn, I know this relationship is great. Right. And that it's so important to you and it brings so much joy to you and that it is such a possibility, right? And it's like, did it come too easily to you, or did it, have you had it for too long when everybody's still trying to manifest their boo, and like, has it set you? And it's like it's almost like that energy of privilege, which is something that is related to all of the identity stuff. It's like, literally, how dare you be freaking happy with the soul that you chose to connect with in this lifetime so that you can actually serve the world.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to hear more about your relationship. And to answer the question, it's always for me about this polarity and this duality, right? And this balance of, yes, sometimes the lesson is I've been posting everything with the Paris filter and being like, I love my life and, this amazing thing's happening. And actually something very intense is happening that I've been omitting. Right. And sometimes the real thing is to lean into that and say, this is what's going on. But I think that the current climate of social media has us all kind of searching for the relatable flaws. And I would love us to search for like our relatable brilliance and our relatable just power. I saw this image of someone where you got I'm always right up against that Instagram caption limit. The long post of all the, like, this is what I've learned from this intense thing. And then someone like gets a book deal or they fall in love. And it's like, life's pretty great, peace emoji, right? And it's even like the way that we write that caption where it's like, I can't write this whole big thing about how amazing it is because it might make people feel bad, rather than saying, actually, I'm not interested in arguing for our limitations, and like, you're really freaking amazing. And like, show it to me. Like, let us just see you radiating and receive that as a reflection of how amazing all of us are.
Wow. Yeah, that's so powerful. I think the relatable brilliance hit me in a way because I'm fascinated by, and I've definitely been in this mode of being addicted to just not being happy or not letting myself be happy, not feeling that joy. And it has to do with how I grew up and what I was modeled. And I do think societally, we are, with what we see on the news, the documentaries we see on Netflix, it does have this heaviness. And so if we stay there, we will live in the lack and always need to want more, have more, do more. And thus, if we are in a place of peace and acceptance and of gratitude and pride, then I think, to me, it feels like, then where would the mind go? Because sometimes when the mind has stuff to ruminate on and sink into, that's it's comfort because it has things to do. But then if it's, and there's breath and there's lightness, it's like we were talking about before, that free fall. And it's unreal, but it's also fucking terrifying. So I'm so curious about your possible deep dive into the behavioral side of all of this, and what that has been like, because it's just, this conversation is making me think about that, how we're addicted to that low.
Completely.
And relating on that low.
Yeah. And I'm going to live into the medicine just and express that I'm loving this conversation. Right. And I feel that sense of expansion. And it was interesting to note even how your energy changed as soon as you started talking about oh my God, what if it could be this amazing? Your whole face lit up and you were I always see this image of a little flying squirrel who's just leapt in it, it's going to land, but it's just I'm really little. There's a lot of air around me. That's how it feels to be a human sometimes.
Oh my God, that needs to be your visual. That needs to be your first animation, your cartoon that you create.
I'm receiving it. And just to be clear, I'm describing myself as a flying squirrel.
Yeah.
Not just you.
I kind of want to be it too.
I know.
You can own it. And yeah, just and all the levity that just came into this conversation of whew, what if we let ourselves feel really good? And for me, I think I lived in so when I think about the first like 2.5 decades of my life, it's just like Eeyore, darkness, like Stranger Things when they go into the upside down, like just that level of, it's like that damp density of like, life felt so hard and it felt so confusing. And it's like, is the revolution like getting one over on those people and having them finally admit that they did every single thing that I think they did? Or is it just being freaking happy, right? And understanding like human evolution, and that I really see the next phase of human evolution is how good can it get? How can we step back into that Garden of Eden energy? And how do we go from just innovating out of desperation and scarcity, like, oh my God, we have to invent something to save ourselves and clean the oceans and make enough money to pay rent, versus like, what would you create if you just got to like chill with the infinite energy of all that is and make something beautiful? Like when I look, the example that's coming to mind is actually Will and Jada Smith's kids, and the energy that they've been able to bring to the world so early on, because they've had everything that they've had loving parents, they've had resources, and I know they've had their own struggles, but like those kids are making some psychedelic art that's really cool because they have the space to do it. And so for me, it's like I'm right now constantly leaning up against the edge of what's the story about what's possible in terms of the level of joy that we can experience, and how can we be revolutionary about that? And the last example coming in is, I don't have the full historical details, but I've heard in different ways that surfing is something that was invented by people who basically had everything they needed. They were living on an island in a chill communal situation, picking the fruit off the trees, and it was like, how much more fun can we have with the ocean? And they invented surfing, right? So I think part of it's like that fear of, what'll I do if it's good? Who's going to judge me? Who's going to leave me? Because they're still addicted to not feeling good. So there's the polarity even there, the grief and the joy.
I love polarity. Actually, I hate it. It actually causes me great mental anguish. But for someone that would come to you and say, but the ocean is covered in trash, the world is on fire, there's a lot happening, what do you say to them?
I would say from one perspective, that's totally accurate, right? And it's again, that duality and that polarity. And feel free to share more about that, what that brings up for you, because it's about not turning away from what's true and real, letting the anger be there, looking, okay, there's plastic washing up on this beach. That person cut me off in traffic. Like letting yourself see what is, but being so revolutionarily committed to joy and liberation that you don't take that as evidence of what's possible, right? And so it's this balance of looking at what is, dealing with it, but then setting your sights on faith, setting your sights on hope, and understanding the metaphysics of we only get that which we are a vibration of, right? So it's not about like, la, 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 good vibes only. I'm not going to look at the plastic. Everything's fine. Because energetically, actually, is that even positive? There's quite an energy of self-rejection and negativity actually within that way of being good vibes only. And
what if I had like a good vibes only t-shirt? I was like, oh shit.
No, shout out to all my good vibes only people. I'm also good vibes only. I'm like good vibes only as our future destination. Like I'm not interested in telling, it's also just quality of life. Am I interested in telling a possibility story that I could actually upgrade my physical state and my embodiment to a level where peace on earth would be possible within my lifetime? That feels like a really fun challenge to pursue for my whole life, versus we're not really going to fix any of this. It's just about harm reduction and securing a place to ride out the apocalypse within 50 years. Like that doesn't feel expansive for me. Mm-hmm. And when I lived like that, I saw less change in my life and in other people's lives.
You mentioned faith a moment ago, and I'm just curious how like your relationship with God has evolved through all of this.
Good old God. It's funny to even use words like faith and prayer and trusting, and it's actually funny walking in here. I noticed that there was a Last Supper thing in the garden.
LOL, I know.
Really?
And
It's hilarious.
And I was like, shout out to Jesus. Jesus is with me as I'm going to almost 30. And that energy of, I used to, even something like the word prayer or God, I bristled at. It was like, no. And I remember having these conversations with my mom where she would say, I see like Jesus's love in you. And I'd be like, no, he's nowhere near me, because I just associated all of it with this trauma that I had in the Catholic Church. But then it was like, okay, do I want to live my whole life proving a point by rejecting all of that? Or like, could I let these resources back into my life? A trust that I live in a benevolent universe, a trust that there are multidimensional energies that are working with us at all times, and that Jesus actually was a pure expression of love. And I can access that love or not, right? I can tap into that memory of someone who believes so purely in the unity and the love of all of humanity, and I could let myself receive that medicine, or I could keep my heart close to that, right? And keep doing it by myself, right? A Course in Miracles says that fear is a sure sign that you're relying only on yourself. And it started with a willingness. It started with a willingness to say, I'm really here for something big and I want to feel better. So what's up, God? It's me, Aaron. Use me. And also having a concept of God that's just like, it's everything, right? We swim in a field of infinite potential and love is the only thing that's real. And how can I make myself a conduit for that in every moment? And then just let life feel amazing, because when you're doing that, you feel good.
As many of you know, we are relaunching Your Podcast Pro in January 2020. And with the help of Teachable, we are able to share these courses with you in a really beautiful, empowering, user-friendly way. And we could not be more excited. Chloe just showed me a sneak peek of how it's going. She's in the midst of building the Teachable Your Podcast Pro program. And holy moly, y'all, I'm so excited. Teachable is user-friendly. It's easy to build your course and start selling ASAP. It's customizable. Your design, your branding, your vision. It's just so cool. And they're here to help. So your Teachable membership gives you access to online resources that will help you go from idea to launch so quickly and so efficiently. And they also offer, when you sign up at teachable.com/almost30, they'll give you 1 free month of their pro monthly plan and access to Teachable U. So this gives you all the tools and courses you need to learn about how to create a course and just other resources that will really empower you in this process. So if you're someone out there in Almost 30 Nation wanting to bring what you know, your knowledge, your experience to people in a course form, Teachable is for you. Teachable.com/almost30 to receive 1 free month of their pro monthly plan. I love a good bar, y'all. I like it textured. I like it a little bit chewy. And most of all, I like that it satiates me. And Perfect Bar has done that. Perfect Snacks are an incredible line of fresh from the fridge protein bars that are made with freshly ground nut butter, up to 17 grams of whole food protein, and 20 superfoods, all combined to create a cookie dough-like texture that is just so delicious and nutritious. It's like, talk about cookie dough, and I'm like, yep, sure, no problem, I'm in. And these bars live up to the hype. My favorite is the coconut peanut butter, as well as the almond butter bars. And the fact that they're chilled, I mean, say no more, fam. In addition to tasting good, these bars will help you feel good because they're non-GMO, project verified, gluten-free, soy-free, kosher, low GI, and made in the USA. So right now, Perfect Bar is offering you 15% off your online order. Just go to perfectbar.com/almost30. That's perfectbar.com/almost30 to get 15% off your online order. I am in a season of nesting, everyone. I am moving, and we are also moving our office and studio as well. And I am so excited to create a space where not only I can feel really at home and inspired, but also the guests that come into our office and our team. And so Article has helped me to do this. Their beautiful modern furniture and accessories are so thoughtfully designed, and affordable. Y'all, this is so affordable. They take out the middleman. It's incredible. It's the easiest way to make your space look beautiful and elevated. So they have sectional sofas, they have dining chairs, they have accent chairs, they have tables, coffee tables, outdoor furniture. They have it all. They also have accessories like poofs and rugs and lighting and all of that. And I just love this brand. So I'm actually perusing. So my next purchase for the new space is a sofa. And so I'm looking at the sectionals. And specifically, I'm really digging the Burrard Sea Salt Gray left sectional sofa. I also love the GABA Pearl White left modular sectional. So I'm very indecisive, and this will be very hard because they're both really, really chic and comfortable. So I'm really excited to finally make a decision. They also have storage units. So media units, that's always really hard because I want it to look chic. I want it to have storage and whatnot. So I am looking at the media units, and I'm digging that Bios 78-inch media unit. Just peeping that. So let me know what you like. I want to talk about this. Decorating a space is so adult, and I'm so proud. So if you'd like to try Article, we're really excited. For our listeners, you can get $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more by going to article.com/almost30. So that's article.com/almost30. You get $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. You also get flat rate shipping available across the US and Canada at just $49 with free basic shipping on orders over $999. Wow. Really excited about this partnership. We continue to just love what they are putting out there. Thoughtful design, Scandinavian and modern. Life is good. All right. Article.com/almost30.
Yeah, I had to take back or like reconfigure what faith meant, what angels meant was like the huge thing for me. I remember when I met Justin, his mom is an angel healer, and I didn't really know much about angels besides the church. I was like, oh, they're, on the walls. That was kind of, and I saw them as higher than me, that I could never access them, that they were different than me. And when I started to really get to know her and the work that she does with angels and understand that they're available to you and accessible to you to communicate and support, I was like, I'll never forget. I'm like, wow, this is like a new world. Like, to have that access and to feel worthy of that access and that relationship and that support of ascended masters and angels was like, oh my God, wow, cool. Like, what else was there that isn't, like the way that I should be experiencing this?
I have full body chills, FBC, as I like to abbreviate them, because I say it so much. How powerful that was like the medicine that your life set up for you, that was going to be, a person who came into your life. And that's actually energy I've been working with a lot with my clients recently of like, it's this duality of like, is it that the angels are coming down to be on our level, or is it that we're getting off our knees, right? And looking them eye to eye, and this understanding that if we chose to be in physical bodies in this lifetime, where all this wild, absolutely unprecedented stuff is happening on Earth, like we really chose to be here, and beings that are not in bodies are like, what do y'all need? I see them back at Mission Control. Like I was like, okay, guys, I'm going in for like 20 years. I'm going to basically think you don't exist. And I know that I'm kind of like your collaborator and your boss. And like, you're just going to have to keep sending these messages over and over and over again. And I know that I seem really conscious of why it's all going to happen now, but believe me, once I'm down there, I'm going to forget a little bit. And seeing them just back at Mission Control being like, what do you need, boss? Yeah. Let's do this, right? And it's like in that energy of traditions where you bow to each other when you meet. It's like, not that they're any less amazing, but not that we're any less amazing either. That we both get to have reverence for each other.
Yeah. Wow.
So sweet. It's sweet to think about them. I think at Mission Control. I don't know who said this, but someone told me this the other day, and I forget who they said this, but speaking about religion and how it's just different languages to God. And like, as I get older, and I too grew up Catholic, and just, redefining that and seeing, because I did have that reaction. I would have when someone would like, talk about God or look up or like pray before dinner. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I kind of had a judgment around it. And I just realized like my exploration of my own spirituality, like is
is directly to the same place, source, God, universe, love, whatever you want to call it. And it's just been such a beautiful thing to realize, it's been healing, because I think we need to we have the need to define no, they're Catholic and they are Buddhist and they are Muslim, and it's like
separate.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really just opened it all up, and I think that's the point. So it's just interesting that we as humans and human bodies have wanted to separate it all rather than just think about it as a different language. You speak French, English, Chinese, but it's all, we're saying very similar things about love, about conflict, about it all. So
totally.
Yeah.
I love that we all had this journey out of Catholicism.
Yes.
I just saw us all.
Our listeners are yeah, we get
lives.
it.
I know.
I talk about it all the time.
But it's a lot, right?
It's a lot.
Catholicism was the political control system on this planet.
Yes.
Until 2 seconds ago.
It's the cabal.
Yeah.
Really the darkness.
It is. Angels, please surround us.
I know.
Angels surround us.
We have this conversation.
They're here.
Honestly.
They're here.
It's just, peace and love to everyone in every religion that you practice. But and this is what I'll say. This is my truth. The Catholic Church puts a hierarchy so that you separate from yourself. So you never feel like you are good enough for love. So you feel like no matter what you do, you're always working towards this next place that is outside of you, that is deemed appropriate by someone else that you don't know within your community. The only men thing, the fact that you can't get married, the shame around your body, the shame around women, making Mary Magdalene a whore when she actually wasn't, making actually having sex to have a baby bad so that they had to have her be a virgin is another, there's so many different aspects of it that are just so heartbreaking if you think about it. And all the symbolism in the Catholic Church is really dark. The colors, the symbolism, and everything, if you really look into it, there's a lot of really good things on History Channel that relate to that kind of go into that. But I urge you to explore kind of the strategy behind it as far as it relates to a mass
system of control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that separation that you talk about is really, that hit me on an intellectual level in the last few years of okay, this original sin thing. So I'm permanently messed up, right? In some ways, that's at the core of what we're talking about with the vision of the world and hope. It's are we permanently destroying each other, or can we actually transcend something and never have to go back? And that sense of you never know if you're right or you're wrong until someone else tells you, right? And it's when does my goodness expire? How often do I have to go to confession? And then, for folks who are listening who may be feeling different levels of resonance or triggered on all of this, it's I always just say, is it working for you? Are you feeling good about yourself?
Yep.
And if not, then the door's open to have a new experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about things that trigger others, and where if it's working for you, it's almost the reaction shouldn't be, or in my perspective, it's why then become defensive? If it's your truth and it is working for you, why would it be hey, da 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 da? Because to me, that means it's might not be working for you, and it's making you look at it and actually come to the realization that it should be something you should look more into. So, I mean,
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree. I used to joke that I eventually started to learn that how the trajectory of my life when I was very early in a new level of self-awareness, I was basically anything that I've ever been I don't know, it's just it's fine for those other people, but not for me. It's just cool, but it's for them, but it's not for me. I would eventually jump off a cliff after that thing, be it literally changing my gender and physical embodiment, or going plant-based, or taking a break from being plant-based for a little bit and then going back to being plant-based, and all these different things. It's if I'm cool with myself, it's either an interesting conversation to have, or it's not a conversation I'm having. It's not charging me in that really powerful way.
Yeah. So would you, I guess for that, what advice would you give to people when they realize or recognize that something is triggering them? How would you explain what exactly is happening, and what would you suggest that they do? taking this advice for myself as well.
Same.
I always say, look at every moment like a choice, right? So the first thing is to choose the moment, to choose the trigger, to not just say, oh my God, I don't know why this is happening, but I guess like because some spiritual person told me on Instagram, like I'm going to try to find a lesson in it. It's like, you chose it. It's happening for a reason. And accepting the medicine in that way, rather, because that really puts us in an empowered place, and it allows us to kind of take our own timeline with it too, where it's like, if it's just happening to me, it can feel like something that's just sweeping through your life, and you have to, there's a right or a wrong way to respond. And if you're just like, okay, this is showing up, I have an opportunity to work with it. It must be coming because there's something here for me. And really just saying, getting curious. There's a couple of ways to do it. First is just to say, how am I feeling right now? Okay. Like, could I write some words down about how I'm feeling? I'm feeling tight in my chest. I'm feeling like I want to cry. I feel like I want to punch someone. I feel like I want to eat a chocolate cake, like whatever it is. And then saying, okay, when's the first time I remember feeling this way? And tracing it back to that often childhood memory. Shout out to my multidimensional people, maybe a past life.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, what was the belief that was instilled in this moment? Or what would I have to believe in order to feel this way? Whoa, okay. So all of a sudden I'm feeling panic when someone who's really amazing reaches out to me. And that panic in my body is reminding me of when I got the lead in a play in school, but then my mom told me to not be a show off. Boom. Whoa, okay. There's a belief there that I won't be loved if I shine too much. So even though something amazing is happening and I have a career opportunity, my trigger is bringing me into that place of like wanting to self-sabotage or just feeling like it's a bad thing. So we can really just like trace that emotion. And then once we hit the emotion, also just let it come through. Like let it blow through like one of those quick summer rainstorms where it's just like, boom, okay. I felt really awful for a little while, rather than feeling a little bit awful and then trying to just manage it in lots of different ways. Because once we let it up and out, then it doesn't have to come around again.
Mm.
And I'm wondering too, like, what is because I'm sure I've definitely done this, like the need to express to the person who triggers you, like, when is that appropriate and when is it not? When is it healing? When is it not? When is it a collaborative moment and could be productive? Because, I'm speaking to like kind of our experience if we get feedback and people say something, and sometimes I don't know whether us responding back or me responding back will be productive to the intention of them reaching out. Because I don't know if it's just to say it and get it out, like you said, up and out, and that's how they do it.
There's so many layers here,
so many layers.
Yeah, it's like I came at that original question sort of from that more like just personal, something happens in my life and I'm triggered, but
it applies. I'm just kind of
Oh, totally. Yeah, we're just going to like the next tier of this thing, which is to really when you're getting feedback, right? When you're being told that you messed up in particular, right? There's that opportunity to say, what in me is this a reflection of, right? And understanding to just really anchor this before we talk about any of the specifics is to say that I really believe that from one perspective, there's no right or wrong. It's all a choice, right? So if you were to hit them back in the comments and be like, well, don't you know this, and just like hit them, or like think that, get to a place where you feel really grounded and then respond, or take 2 days and then respond, or never respond, or write a blog post about it, or whatever it is, whatever the reaction is just going to continue to be part of your healing and growing process. And so if we can like really own our choices and surrender that we can't control other people's reactions and just seek to take action from a place of not having an aroused nervous system, coming from a place of calm and connecting with like, what would the highest embodiment of myself do right now? And just owning that choice and then owning what comes back. And I think that in terms of that question of when's it appropriate to respond, I think that it's almost always okay, right, to respond if you're responding from a place of having taken that breath for yourself, right? Having taken that that integration moment, and knowing that you might come in feeling like, I'm just going to share this thing with this person and I feel really aligned and I'm going to, update my perspective a little bit. And, I feel like I can just see them responding so positively and being like, wow, we had this learning moment together. And then they hit you back with like some middle finger emoji. And it's like, well, I guess that's part of the message here, is just for me to know that sometimes I can be perfectly aligned and it's still going to create a negative reaction in someone else. So it's highly nuanced, and I'm happy to hear kind of more whatever else is coming up for you if we want to keep unpacking it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm sure we just hired Aaron Rose.
We're working together, you guys.
Which we're really
excited to just explore all the things and just be better examples for our community, feel better about what we're doing. And there's just so much for us to learn. And I wanted to relate exactly what you were saying, less related to like our experience with the community, but I think everyone can use that information as a response to, say, a friend you might be having a falling out with, a relationship, work, that kind of same information applies.
Totally. And when we're speaking specifically kind of relationally about not just sort of being a public figure and navigating things in the comments and things like that, but if we're triggered or having a hard time with someone in the moment, like I statements all the way. So we calm the nervous system. We can do that by taking a deep breath, going for a run, doing some emotional freedom technique, tapping, meditating, whatever it is. And we drop into the heart. We literally just see our mind go from the mind. I always see it like those big glass elevators in like hotel lobbies where you're like going down from the top floor into the heart center, seeing the light there, and then having your expression come from that place, right? And just owning your I statement. It was really hard for me to hear you say that because it brought up all this stuff for me. Something that I use that I think Brene Brown shares a lot is just saying the story I'm in right now is this. Right? I just navigated some massive conflict with a couple of people in my life, or I say massive almost in quotation marks because it was just highly emotionally charged. And we just did this dance where we were like, okay, the story that I'm in is that you don't care about me as a friend. Okay, the story that I'm in is that I have to be perfect in order to be your friend. The story that I'm in is this, right? And we could just share it from that level of like, this is the reality that I'm in. I know it's not the reality that you're in. And can we bring enough compassion just to hear each other out and let that hearing be the medicine?
Yeah.
And then ultimately, if you're not getting that reflection back, if someone's like, what story are you talking about? The only objective thing is this, right? Then you can at least you're already giving yourself the medicine of knowing that you're honoring your perspective while acknowledging that it's different than the others.
So good. The perfect thing was interesting for me because what came up was, and a lot of times in my personal relationship with Justin, I feel like I have to be perfect when I come to the table with something that I feel. And that's like my thing. I just feel like it always has to be perfectly crafted, thought out, emotionally calm. It has to be this perfect thing. And I was thinking back in my, growing up, I felt like I had to be perfect in a lot of ways in that way, and how that's kind of still coming up for me as like my story that I'm projecting, onto Justin, that it needs to be perfect. I need to be so like almost manipulatively strategic about what I'm saying to get what I want. And I'm saying what I want in quotes because it's not like I want like a liver or like cash. It's like just that what I want, the safety and the emotional response that I'm looking for. So what you said just really, really rang true for me.
Completely. And I think it does give us that opportunity just in the conversation right now for folks who are listening to say that, like, where do the triggers come from, right? Is from that root subconscious programming. Sometimes we come into it literally encoded within our DNA from the fear-based patterns that our ancestors dealt with, like what the conditions of their lives were, and then also what happens in our early years. So many of us were like walking around looking into each other's eyes, trying to find that safety, trying to find that, did I do it the right way? Because basically what I'm getting is a calm nervous system response back from you. Wow. I'm not getting triggered by my empathic feeling of you getting upset, because what would happen when I was a kid if someone would get upset? And for some of us, it's like, the really cinematic stuff of like major violence. But for a lot of us, it's just like, well, then I felt like my mom didn't like me, right? Or I felt like I did something wrong. And that feels horrible as a kid. And it's also tied to our survival needs. It's like, I got to keep these people happy so that They keep me alive.
Feel that.
Yeah.
Feel that.
I would love to just talk a little bit about, the work that we are going to be doing and what that looks like when you work with organizations, when you work with people who are leading a movement or a company, and how your work has impacted not only the people they're trying to impact in their business, but also just their teams and the community, the culture of the company. Because I think, giving love and attention to those micro can impact the macro on a level that I can't even fathom. So what does that look like? Because we haven't started with you yet. By this time, we have been when this comes out, but I'm so excited. I'm like fucking going crazy right now because this conversation alone feels so good. So what does that look like?
And I'm also excited, and it felt like the right timing for us to have this conversation, and then
I agree.
Then dive
me
in.
too.
It was like, let's just chill and chat a little bit.
It was like a secret way to get a free session in. And you're working with our team.
Yeah.
For our team day.
Yeah. I'm really excited
It's
about
important
that.
to us.
A big aspect of what gives me just that, like, I just saw myself like kicking back in a chair on the beach, like that level of peace within myself about my work is understanding that the micro is the macro. How you do anything is how you do everything. And a shift within one person, because all we have is this now moment. Everything that's ever happened is just all happening right now. And so when we start to have even a little bit of a shift in experience, it ripples out, many different perspectives, as we've been talking about these different paths to the same truth. I think it's Hinduism and the Vedas that say that you heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. It's like you liberate all these stuck aspects of yourself. Even when you look at yourself in the mirror and for the first time, you're like, what's up? Nice person. Like you're just like feeling a little bit more self-love. That we cannot underestimate the impact of a small shift like that. So any little shift that we do within ourselves, and then if we do within a group of people, it has these massive ripple effects out into the collective. And I like to anchor that in because we're talking about casual things like healing intergenerational trauma and like basically reestablishing peace on earth in a world that seems like it's going up in flames. But to understand that, like, yes, we can radically take that on, and the medicine is moment by moment by moment. Not with that perfectionism of like, I have to be perfect, but like the relief of always getting a restart and understanding that, when I get triggered by something, we'll go into we'll use identity examples because we're speaking about that in terms of how to create this sort of like diverse and inclusive community in a way that feels really inviting for lots of people. If I have a situation where a woman, as a man, where a woman comes to me and is like, you said something that made me really upset, right? That made me, and I feel like you're saying something that's sexist, or however she puts it, right? What's the autopilot in that moment? Actually, I think you're like 75% upset, like logically based on what I did. Like there's, I get it, but like, I feel like you're overreacting a little bit. Like there's a squashing, right? There's a pushing down of the emotion. There's an invalidation, not to mention like the full spectrum of violence that can occur there, but that kind of energy of I'm not validating you. And so if that's what every single man in my bloodline has done as like a large pattern throughout all of the generations, and then in that moment, I just drop into my heart. And before I even say anything, I'm just like, I see you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Right. And I just let that in. That little pattern reset makes such a big difference because we don't even realize how much we're holding this active fight in ourselves against each other. Another example I'll bring in is I had a client who came to me running a really big, successful spiritual wellness business and was looking at aspects of sexuality and race, of like, I really feel like I have this very straight white audience. And we spent one session doing, in addition to some other less metaphysical things, but we spent time just dropping into her heart and saying, how do you actually feel about people of color and LGBTQ people? And noticing like, whoa, there's this energy of resistance. There's this energy of pullback of like, I'm scared for you to be around because I'm scared to hurt you. Right? I'm scared that I'm scared that I'm not going to be able to see myself as a good person. And we just breathed into that like a muscle knot. And we did a loving kindness practice and we just sent them love and we set the intention I'm ready to let go of the idea that our safety is mutually exclusive. Right? We did some subconscious reprogramming there. And then I kid you not, within 24 hours, I get an email from her saying, out of nowhere, all these people just wrote to me asking to contribute to my site. These people of color, these women of color, these LGBTQ people. And I was like, boom, like mic drop. They were ready to be part of your community. You just had to let go of the part of yourself that still was programmed to mistreat them. And so you were holding them at a distance because you didn't want to recreate that cycle, but you didn't know how to get to the other side.
Damn.
So that's one aspect of what we do, is really just looking at those patterns and saying, let's clean it up. Let's have a new experience.
Wow. Those energetic tools must be so powerful. Do you ever get someone who's like, what the heck? Because we're like in it, so I can't wait. But like, do you ever get like a CEO who's like, what the hell are you asking me to do?
Generally no, because I do a lot of work around who my ideal clients are. I used to attract a little bit more like that. And now it's kind of like, you must be this high to ride, and you got to be down. You got to be ready for the level of transformation. You got to be ready to receive the tools. And also what I love about the cultural moment that we're in is that we're all kind of starting to admit that things haven't been going well. And so there's a willingness. There's like, okay, well, I've been reading best practices lists online and like talking to my social media manager about how to reduce negative comments, but that hasn't been working. So maybe I will take a deep breath with Aaron and think about what my parents said to me about people of color and how that might be subconsciously replaying in my experience right now. And then we pair that, I'll add as well, just for folks who are listening and thinking about the whole process, we pair it with what's the aligned action, right? Okay, if we're stepping into that higher integrity part of self, does it mean reparations? Does it mean amends making? Does it mean, navigating certain aspects of your identity and saying, actually, I need to go apologize to that person that I laughed at a joke about them when I was 12, right? I need to clean that up, or I need to send them some love if I can't find them, right? So there are little things that we can do in addition to practices like donating an aspect of your profits and things like that and giving back in that way. Yeah, it's all part of the process.
Wow. Well, I'm so excited.
I'm excited
I couldn't
too.
be more excited. Just as a last question from me, just like a quick fire thing. What are a few books that you'd recommend our audience to read that you love and that have been impactful for you?
I love a rapid fire. I'm like, hit me with the resource and astrology
like
questions.
Ketchup or mustard?
Yeah, no. Books that I love include A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical text for reprogramming your consciousness from fear to love. And if it calls to you, but it feels daunting, just open it up anywhere and just start reading and have an experience. Don't be a perfectionist and try to read the whole 700-page text from start to finish. A Return to Love is Marianne Williamson's book about A Course in Miracles, which helps people kind of access it in a more applicable way. Like, okay, how does this apply to family? How does this apply to relationships? Things like that. What else is coming through? I love a good metaphysical text like The Holographic Universe, which helps us understand the brilliant nature of the simulation in which we are all living right now. And I'm just going to drop in anything else. I love Walt Whitman. He was such a possibility creator. I love just to Google Walt Whitman quotes and just receive his medicine of his imagination, and other imagination fuelers for me I love Harry Potter. I'm of the Harry Potter generation.
Totally.
And so like giving yourself the gift of an immersion in a story that feels believable and exciting and expanding your imagination in that way. And I love Octavia Butler for that reason as well, because she was all about like, how do we radically reimagine the future of humanity? Like social justice science fiction that you don't even realize is doing that to you.
Wow. Yeah, Harry Potter's the best.
Harry Potter is
the best. It's the best movies too. Justin and I watch it still.
When I work with my clients, actually, I often will do like we kind of have to like sync on metaphors. It's like, okay, can I reference this movie, that movie? And I'm always like, we can work together if you're not a Harry Potter person, but I'm going to have to really draw from the back burner there.
We just watched Lord of the Rings again.
I love Lord of the Rings.
So fucking good. We're huge losers. But it was like, okay, what I love about Harry Potter as the last thing was I got a break every once in a while and we were having fun and we were making magic and doing all these things. Like Lord of the Rings, there was no fucking break. I was like, I'm stressed out the entire time. there's a battle. We're in a battle for 9 hours.
And you get like 1 30-second scene of like Viggo Mortensen and Liv Tyler kissing.
Yeah.
But then it's like back to the battle.
Exactly. But they never even like sink into it.
Yeah.
And how that guy, what's his name? Aragorn with the blonde.
Oh yeah.
They didn't even talk.
Yeah.
Remember she like fell in love with him and they probably said one word. Literally, like he was like nodded at her and she was like in love.
100%.
Crazy.
I love those movies too though, because they're such a good metaphor for like the path, right? Aragorn I work a lot with archetypal energy. It's like, be your best self. It's like, who is that? I want to be like Aragorn. I want to be like Harry Potter or Dumbledore or whatever it is, and his like commitment and Frodo's commitment. Yeah. And also Sam.
I mean, come on. You need to say Sam.
Sam is like the OG
Sam's actually the number one of the whole series.
Yeah. He's like, no, Frodo.
No.
Like if you don't believe that social change is possible, watch Lord of the Rings and watch how Sam goes through his journey. And Frodo's like, I'm never going back to the Shire. Like I'm never going to go back to my home. Like I'm going to die here. We're not going to complete our mission. And Sam's like, what now?
Yeah.
We're going back.
That's not true, Mr. Frodo. He's like, we're going back to the Shire, Mr. Frodo. Like, Sam was really number one the entire time.
He visioned it into existence.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
You guys, this is triggering me from like recess when I didn't know what was going on. This is like conversation between A and B, and I'm going to see my way out of it.
Enveloping circle hug.
If you have 10 hours this weekend,
love it.
Feel free to dive
I probably will.
Feel free to dive in.
Last question from me. You mentioned like the idea of possibility story before. I just wanted to know if you have one today. Doesn't have to be forever and ever, but
yeah, I'm just going to drop in to allowing people to feel into right now. How would it feel like to wake up in a world where everything that you kind of hope is maybe possible is happening, right? You wake up and you look out the window and you just feel good about being here. You feel that like sunshiny openness that you feel like the morning after something really good happens, or you fall in love, and you walk down the street and you see people and you're just stoked to see them. Like you're stoked to see your best friend, or you don't feel anyone grabbing energetically at you and you're not either. You're just gliding, but you also feel connected. You hear people telling stories about what's going on in the world. And it's like, damn, can you believe that we cleaned up the oceans? Can you believe that like we used to talk so much about identity, but we actually dealt with it, right? And so I can just see you now, and I don't even have to think about all that stuff that went down, although we know it's possible and we know that it did happen. And just letting yourself breathe into that sensation of not only have I quote unquote manifested the money, the partner, the house, the life that I want, but we all co-created something that we're so proud of, that we just feel so good about. Like, this is who we really are. Because that's why it's felt so awful, because it's not who we are to feel so separate, right? And you can look at it and it's not just that you did it on your own, but like, wow, we did this together, right? It just feels easier to be here now. And I can't wait to see what people are creating.
Wow.
That's it, y'all.
That's it. Where can people connect with you?
Aaron X Rose is my Instagram. That's where the daily content happens. And it's just also Aaron, AARON, xrose.com is my website. And /tools will bring you to the page where there are different things that you can use to guide you on this process, whether it's bringing a little bit more hope into your life or getting clearer on your path and your purpose, all that good stuff.
Amazing.
Thank you.
This is such a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Flying high.
We love you guys
Love you.
very much. We will see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.
The best. One of our favorites.
Thank you so much, Erin. And we're just really excited to continue working with you. It feels really, really right.
We were 10 minutes into our last session and I was like, I'll do 100 more.
100 more.
I was like, I'll do 100 more. I've never been so seen. So definitely connect with Aaron. He is someone to watch. I couldn't recommend him more.
Yeah, AaronXRose.com and AaronXRose on Instagram. Thank you all so much for listening. We are on tour currently, so check out our tour dates at almost30podcast.com/tour. We'd love to see you and meet you. And if you're curious and have not met women in your city or area, see if there's an ambassador in your city. You can do so by going into the secret Facebook group and checking out the subgroups. And if you don't have an ambassador near you and maybe you'd like to become one, you can reach out to community@almost30podcast.com.
Yeah, we would love to support you in whatever journey or transition you are on with our ambassador program or however else we can.
Yeah. All right. We love you. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.